All right. I am joined by my guy, Shae Neal. We are watching the end of this, and I got an echo, so let me get rid of that. Shae, what is going on, my man? How about this game today?
Yeah, hey Nick, how you doing? I appreciate you having me. Good to be here, and I'm starting to think I might be a little bit of a luck charm, so maybe I got to be on here a little more often, and the Reds will have a few more wins.
I tell you what, I support it 100%. Well, if you're watching here, you'll notice things look a lot different than our normal Chatterbox streams. That's because huge day here for Chatterbox Sports, covering a softball tournament in Miami, Oxford. They had the number one team in the country playing today. Had over 5,000 people watching that game. So good day for Chatterbox. But we're on the backup stream, so that's what you're watching. We'll do the best we can. It's still the same conversation. We'll still get to all your questions and have a good time. But Reds leading 13-0. We are in the bottom of the ninth. I got one out. I got a 1-2 count here, and that's a ball. Shae, where are you at? You got one out, 2-2?
Yep, 1 out, 2-2, runner on first. So we're
Okay,
in the
good.
same spot.
Good. We're in this. So once this game does go final, I'll restart the show. We have a little video intro, but we just like to kind of get on here when we're able to in the last half inning, at least what we think is going to be the last half inning most nights. Feel pretty good about this one tonight, and just kind of chat with you guys. Sometimes these go like 20 seconds. Like I think last night we jumped on, we hit live, and boom, game was over. Sometimes it goes a little while, so we can kind of just chat and have it. But yeah, Casey Legumina pitching right now, just got another strikeout, already up to 32 pitches here at his debut. This guy's been pretty impressive.
Yeah, no doubt about it. He looks good. The stuffs we've known since the Kyle Farmer trade that the stuff was there, the great fastball. I'm excited to see, especially with, some pieces of the bullpen struggling to start the year. I won't go to the extreme of saying the full bullpen struggling because I think it's just a couple outliers and a small sample size. But I'm excited to get a fresh arm in there, and he looks really good so far in his first game.
Yeah, hopefully he does not throw enough pitches where they ship him right back down. Hopefully this wasn't one of those one and done. I don't know how you would right now, but yeah, he's looking awesome. Ooh, that didn't look. It felt good. Off of Casali. This is my most awkward part of the game, so bear with me as I work through how to chat and do this. Once we get into like the full like podcast mode, that's where I don't know if I shine. That seems a little strong, but I'm a little more comfortable at least. Shae, what have you been up to today? You were calling a game, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. The community college in town, I was playing a doubleheader today, so I got to call that. So I'm kind of in the same boat as you, where when I'm watching a game like this, I'm used to doing more than I'm doing right now. So I don't want to call pitch by pitch. So this is a little awkward, just kind of sitting here. But
we'll work through it. Well, we got one strike away here. Let's see if we can wrap this up. All right. Hey, really good news today. Louisville, they ended their 8-game losing streak. They blew out Toledo, so good for those guys. That was a much needed win. We'll talk a little bit more about some of the things that happened in that game a little later on. All right, 3-2.
I feel like it's not an official end of the game unless it goes to a full count. So
that is accurate, Shae. That is accurate. Let's see if I get our names on here. They're supposed to. Oh, it's because I got that banner on. That's why they're not there. All right, here we go. And it feels fitting that Will Myers is the guy that makes the final out of the game. We'll talk a lot more about him. But like I said, we're going to reset this. We're going to come in. We're going to have a little intro music. I'll be a little more fired up, have the juices flowing, and we'll talk about this 13-0 Reds win. Let's go.
High drive, left center field, racing back to the Laurent Bourgeois. The Reds are National League Central Division champions. In the air, left center field. Did he? He did! He did! Red win! Win! Line to the right field. Genius, the first ball, slow to first, and Homer Fairley, for the second time in his major league career, tossed the no-hitter. Oh, are you kidding me? Holy Moses, the second player in major league history to hit 7 home runs in the first 10 games. In the air, and the Reds win it. What a dream beginning to the career of Jay Bruce.
All right, what is going on? Welcome into Chatterbox Reds live post-game show. My name is Nick Kirby. I am joined by my guy Shae Neal. Really excited to have him on as we talk about the Reds' 13-0 win over the Phillies here on Saturday afternoon. Hope your Saturday is going well, or if you're listening to this in podcast form, your Sunday morning is off to a really good start. Shae, how are we feeling today?
I'm feeling really good. First of all, I love that intro. I don't know if you can see it, but I'm wearing a Scooter Jeanette shirt right now.
There we go.
Love that trip down memory lane. But yeah, Reds played fantastic today. The bats got great. The bats got going. A guy we're going to talk about a ton, Will Myers, and Graham Ashcraft doing what Graham Ashcraft's done all year, tossing a gem. Good win for the guys in front of their home fans.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Shae, before I jump into recapping this game, just real quickly, I know we had you on the podcast version of spring training. For those who may have missed that, tell everyone a little bit more about yourself, what you do, and most importantly, how you became a Reds fan.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm born and raised in Southern Ohio. I grew up in Dayton, so Reds fan my whole life because it was the team. Just an hour south, and loved going to Reds games. My sister and my brother-in-law were actually at the game today, but graduated from Wright State University in Dayton, worked for the ESPN Dayton affiliate for a while, hosted a Reds show called Wing Reds Live. That's how we met, Nick. And then got my degree, moved out here to Southeast Kansas, and now I'm the sports director of Coffeyville's KGGF radio. So I do a lot of Kansas State, Chiefs, Royals, stuff like that. But still a Reds fan. That'll never change, even though I cover the Royals every day.
All right, very good. Well, I appreciate you coming on. Our guy Trace is doing a million duties today for Chatterbox Sports as they had a huge softball tournament with Miami, and the number 1 Oklahoma Sooners came to town. So he's doing that. We'll have him back soon, maybe not tomorrow. I might have another guest tomorrow, but we'll continue to bring you post-game coverage after our goal every single game this year, and then a podcast version available the next morning as well. All right, so here's the recap. Graham Ashcraft allowed a leadoff double to Stott, and then he walked Turner to start the game. So it was kind of a rough start, but then he was able to get out of that first inning without allowing the run, really maybe set the tone for the day. Will Myers really broke out today. Second inning, hit a solo home run. And then in the third inning, the Reds had runners on second, third with no one out, but Stuart Fairchild and Tyler Stevenson both struck out. But Will Myers, man, he picked them up. Hit the second bomb of the game, made it 4-0. India had an RBI double in the fifth. Myers capped off his big day with an RBI double in the fifth as well. And then Friedel had an RBI single in the fifth, and that made it 8-0. And Graham Ashcraft on this day, I tell you what, he didn't need anything close to eight runs. He didn't need close to 13 runs. He was just as dominant as he's been. 6 innings, 4 hits, 0 runs. Did walk 4, but struck out 4. 3 straight quality starts from Graham Ashcraft to start the year. We'll talk a lot more about him. The bullpen, including Casey Legumina, who I spent about 30 minutes trying to practice his name today. I think I got it right. If I didn't, I'm really sorry, Casey. He threw 2 scoreless innings. Buck Farmer had a scoreless inning as well. So the bullpen continuing to pitch a little bit better of late. And then the Reds added 5, if I'm doing my math right, in the bottom of the 8th off of Princeton High School's own Josh Harrison, who came in as a position player. That's how good of a day it was for the Reds in the ballpark at Great American. And the Reds win this one 13-0. So you can start this one a million different ways. I'm just going to start with Graham Ashcraft just because if it wasn't for Nick Lodolo, Graham Ashcraft would probably be the biggest story on the Reds right now. Shae, what was your thoughts on Ashcraft's performance and where he's at so far this season?
He was great. I think the number one takeaway for me from today is that Nick, it felt like he really wasn't at his best. He didn't have his best stuff today, and he still threw 6 scoreless innings, only allowed 4 hits. That's scary how good he can be, even when he's not at his best. But what's really been the story for Graham Ashcraft going back to spring training? I mean, when we talked in spring training, he had 10 strikeouts against the Padres in 6 innings as well. That slider, sweeping curve, whatever he's calling that new pitch, that's completely changed the way he is on. He's composed on the mound because now he has that strike you out pitch. Last year, the cutter's great, the sinker's great, but guys were putting it in play and it was leading to more runs because of bad balls in play, stuff like that, few errors, all that kind of stuff. Now he's getting swings and misses. And with his stuff, if he's getting swings and misses, I mean, all-star games, potential Cy Youngs in his future.
Yeah, I just feel like Ashcraft is really raising the bar of the expectations for him with every start, which can be good and can also be bad. I don't want us to get too overly amped about Graham Ashcraft and when he does struggle, which he's going to at some point this year. I hope we're not going, oh, what's wrong with Graham Ashcraft? This guy is a guy that didn't even break camp on the opening day roster last year. Guy that started the year at AAA, but 212 expected batting average against him today. He did allow 9 hard hit balls and 4 walks. So maybe a little bit more of a struggle to get through this. But there was several times where he just got such weak contact. Balls that were just completely off the end of the bat. I think there was a broken bat. And that kind of, I think, helps him, make up for some of the other stuff. But I tell you what, just a dream start to the season for Ashcraft. Man, I'm excited, for what this season could look like for him. And I'm excited for really all 3 of these guys at the top of the Reds rotation.
Yeah, and I think, Nick, I'm glad you brought that up because I think they're also competitive, Hunter and Nick and Graham. You saw Graham coming off the mound today. He's always, barking. He's always getting fired up. I love it. Hunter Green's the same way. I think these guys all being about the same age and all being at about the same point in their career, it's going to create friendly competition. These guys are going to want to, quote unquote, one up each other every single time they take the mound. And that's only going to be good for the Reds because then all of a sudden you have 3 young, hungry pitchers that constantly want to be better than the other 2. And that's going to lead to a lot of wins for the Reds.
All right, let's get to Will Myers. And we're going to start this off with this bad boy. I went and dug this out because I talked about this on a show the other day when I was talking about how, look, calm down on Will Myers. It's a long season. This guy has an incredible track record. And my guy, Ryan, he said it best. Once the neck gator's off, it's on, and it was on today. What a day for Will Myers. 4 hits, 2 bombs. This is the Will Myers that we were hoping we were going to get with the Reds. I think I said before, I think Will Myers could be anywhere from an average player to a guy that has that GABP leap and can be maybe even like a fringe all-star. That's kind of where the season could swing, I think, for Myers. Today was a big step in the right direction towards that good swing. What'd you think of Myers today?
He was swinging a really good bat today. He was hitting the ball hard. You're absolutely right. And the thing I've noticed with Will is over the last road trip, he was really swinging and missing a lot of pitches that were off the outside corner. And it really did. John Sadak, Chris Welsh, Jeff Barrentley, all those guys, they were making great points. And it looked like he was so far away from the plate that it was really kind of hurting his ability to get to those outside pitches. He's moved in a few steps, and now he's starting to defend that outside edge, and he's doing a much better job of hitting the ball hard. I think, the simple fix sometimes is the good fix, and that's what it seems to be for Will Myers. Hopefully he can keep it up. But what really this arc so far, the Will Myers arc in Cincinnati, if you will, it reminds me a lot of what we saw in the half season of Yasiel Puig, where he really got off to a slow start too in April, the first couple weeks of May. And then, Nick, I'm sure you remember May, June, July, up until deadline day, up until that fight on the night he got traded. He was raking. He was mashing the ball, especially at Great American Ballpark. Now, I think Will Myers is a little more talented and consistent of a hitter than Puig was, but I could see that very similar arc of he just gets better and better as the weather warms up.
I like that. Yeah, that's a good comp. Another guy had a good day, and we talked about him last night. Last night, Jonathan India hit the crap out of the ball and only got 1 hit to show for it. Today, 2 hits. India's OPS now up to 910 on the season. Just a great start to the season for Jonathan India, who this is a big season for him. You know, rookie of the year in 2021, last year disappointing, but there was so many injuries. It was hard to know what to expect out of him. And I've been so impressed with India. And I think he's hitting the ball harder than I can ever remember.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it feels like when we talked in spring, I said it looks like, rookie of the year Jonathan India is back. And now I think I'm ready to take it up a level. I mean, I think it's rookie of the year Jonathan India plus, the next step. And I think that could be all-star Jonathan India. That could be top 5 second baseman in baseball Jonathan India. Now, Nick, you know me well enough to know I love stirring the pot. He had the go-ahead hit in the 10th inning out in Atlanta a couple nights ago. And the first thing I tweeted was crazy how Ozzie Albies is the second best second baseman in Atlanta tonight. I really think the sky's the limit for Jonathan India. I think when it's all said and done and he enters the prime of his career, we could be talking about the best second baseman in baseball.
All right, we're going off script here because you gave me an idea.
Okay.
We're going to power rank the guys that have the best chance of making the All-Star team this year for the Reds.
Okay.
We'll go one by one and we can go through this. All right. So number 1, I'm gonna say Nick Lodolo.
I agree. That's what I was thinking too.
All right. Number 2, I'm gonna go Alexis Diaz just because it's a lot easier to get in as a reliever.
And I think I was going back and forth between a guy like Green and Ashcraft and as well as Diaz, but I agree with you. I think it's Diaz, not just because, like you said, closers get in a lot easier than starters do, but I think also the MLB knows who Alexis Diaz is, not just because he's Edwin Diaz's little brother, but because he was really, really good last year. And I think that gives him a little bit of an advantage as well. They'll tell you all-star voting isn't biased. It's completely biased. Alexis Diaz is more well-known, and I think that gives him the upper hand.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, I'm going to let you pick number 3.
Number 3, this is tough. Ashcraft's throwing the ball really well right now, but I'm going to go with a guy that I think has a little bit more of a chance to keep it going and avoid some of those maybe bad starts or those bad stretches. Give me Jonathan India at number 3.
I was actually, I'll just go and give my number 4. I was between India and Stevenson. I know Stevenson's not off to as great of a start, but he plays catcher, so that's a huge advantage. So I'm going to go India, and then I'll go Stevenson 4. Do you disagree with 4?
No, I think that's a fine pick. I think Stevenson, like you said, premium player to premium position. Really, when Stevenson's on his game, there's only 2 catchers, or maybe 3 now that Sean Murphy's in Atlanta, that I would say that is definitely a tier above Tyler Stevenson at this point in time. And that's Will Smith in Los Angeles and JT Realmuto in Philadelphia. All
right. And then we'll just wrap it up with kind of the guys that maybe are right there. Spencer Steer. I think Will Myers could go on a hot streak and be a potential. And then, of course, Ashcraft. Hunter Green, probably tough at this point just because first 3 starts going to be hard to get that ERA back up. But, hey, let us know in the comments. What do you think? Rank your top 5 that you think right now.
And I'll tell you what, Nick, he's going to need a few more at-bats against lefties, but keep an eye on Rick Fraley.
Oh, yeah, you know what, Jake, I'm glad you mentioned Jake Fraley. Yeah, he's got to be up there too. I'm looking at the box score, and he's not in it because the Reds had faced a lefty today. So, yeah, that's a good point. And who knows? It would seem very far-fetched to see TJ Friedl, but TJ Friedl's a 940 OPS right now. So
when was the last time there was a bunt hit in the All-Star game?
Yeah. TJ Friedl could be the guy. All right. Well, let's move on to some interesting news of the day. And I'll be completely honest, Shae, I have no idea how to read into it. I reached out to a couple people. They have no idea how to read into it. So Joey Votto, I'm just going to read exactly what the Reds said so I don't mess this up. The Reds today have returned from a rehabilitation assignment first baseman Joey Votto. He will continue his rehab in Cincinnati. My best interpretation of that, I know his rehab assignment was supposed to end on the 20th, so he was kind of getting up against it. I feel like that would be a really weird way of him just coming back tomorrow. I feel like that would be I don't, unless they're trying to just like pull some kind of fun stunt. I don't know. It makes it sound like to me that he's just going to hang out in Cincinnati and probably go back on another rehab assignment again at some point. Is that I don't even know how to take this.
Yeah, no, your guess is really as good as mine. I think that a theory I saw on social media, I don't know how much, I mean, I think this is all speculation at this point, but Louisville, if Louisville was going on the road, maybe he didn't want to travel with Louisville with his rehab assignment ending on, I believe it was the 20th. Maybe he just wanted to go to Cincinnati, finish his rehab there. Like you said, it could be that, a couple more swings in the cage and he's ready to go for the next series on Monday. It could be that he still thinks he's a couple weeks away and he'd rather work with the Reds trainers and the Reds staff. I really don't know. We could see Joey Votto as early as I think early next week. We could see Joey Votto in a month. I have no clue.
Yeah. I is he going to be in the lineup tomorrow? I don't know.
I was going to say he could be hitting third tomorrow at first base, and I wouldn't be stunned. I mean,
it felt like that would be a really weird way of going about it, but I don't know. We'll have to see. Jumping right into it, got a comment here from my lady Mapo. Who would they send down for Votto? I mean, I guess it's probably just Vossler, just because
Probably.
of who had a nice day today. Finally got out of the really bad slump he was in. Actually had 2 hits. One of them I think was off a lefty. I think Vossler's just the odd man. I don't see anyone else on this roster that you could send down unless someone's hurt that we don't know about.
I mean, I agree with you. I like Vossler. He's a nice little piece, but it's a lefty bat that you're replacing with a lefty bat. And I mean, Vossler plays first base and third base. And at the end of the day, at first base, you would have Votto, Stevenson, Casale potentially. And then at third base, you have now Steer, of course, with the potential to even throw Senzel at third base there too. So I think there's too much corner infield depth on the major league roster. I think you just you make the easy decision and do lefty bat for lefty bat, especially because Vossler is one of the few guys with options and you wouldn't have to DFA him.
Yeah, got a good question here. Myers, 800 OPS. I mean, it feels like a really good like over underline. Like if our friends, our partners at Betfred Sportsbook were doing a Will Myers OPS over under, maybe a little lower. I mean, his career 768, but again, just that GABP effect. Played so much of his career in San Diego, which we know took away, and they had the fences further for a lot of his career than they are even now. I don't know what his projection were. I don't know, maybe like 775 would maybe be a better over under, but I could see him getting to 800.
Yeah, I could too. I think it's really anywhere between like you said, 740, 750 to like 780, 790. I think if he goes on a tear for 2-3 weeks, all of a sudden his OPS is sitting at 870, 880. And if he's an average hitter, it probably stays above 800. So I think Will Myers is definitely the talent of hitter to end up at 800. I don't know if that was the over under. I don't know if I'd bet on it, but I think if he doesn't end up at 800, he'll end up somewhere near it, like 770, 780.
Yeah, I take the over like 775. I think he'll do that. All right. Let's get on another one of the big news of the day. Casey Legumina was called up because Connor Overton was placed on the IL. We'll get to that in a second. And then Luke Weaver is with the club, expected to start Wednesday against Tampa Bay. Well, let's break this down one by one. Let's start with the guy that pitched today. Casey Legumina. This was the guy the Reds got for Kyle Farmer. My best understanding is Legumina is a guy that has some upside, very just unpolished pitcher, can throw hard. You saw that today, I think he hit 96.8, I think was what he topped out at. A guy that's kind of bounced around, had some injuries, was kind of one of those guys that was in no man's land during the COVID season. But I thought he looked awesome tonight. What was your thoughts on Legumina, who pitched in his MLB debut 2 innings, 1 hit, 0 runs, 1 walk, and 3 strikeouts? Now, granted, Reds were up a bunch of runs. A little bit easier to pitch against a team like that. But first batter, Trey Turner, broke his bat. Or I don't know if he broke his bat, but Turner reached out. It was like the weakest contact you could possibly have down the first base line. What was your thoughts on Legumina?
I thought he looked really sharp. And like you said, I mean, Trey Turner is about as good of a first out as you can get in the major leagues. But I think, it's not necessarily the flashiest move in the world when you trade a fan favorite like Kyle Farmer for a former 8th-round reliever out of Gonzaga. But if I mean, he's been really solid in his minor league career, pitching it both in the rotation and in the bullpen. His minor league ERA was about 4, and really good out of the bullpen. I believe his minor league ERA out of the bullpen was like low 3s. But if you look at this Reds roster right now, I'm sure a lot of people listening and a lot of people just off the, just their gut feeling, if this team gets a few really, nails relievers in front of Alexis Diaz, I mean, this team is capable of competing towards a 500 record. And then, sky's the limit moving forward as these guys get experience. So I think right now, the 8th-round reliever, maybe not the flashy move, but I think it's exactly what the Reds roster needs. And I thought he looked really good in his first game.
Let's go to the next one, next piece of that news. Connor Overton. If there was ever something that felt like a phantom IL, just to, I guess, keep a guy's confidence up or whatever your motivation is behind it, it certainly feels like this, right?
Yeah, it does. It reminds me a lot of long time ago, but back in my my playing days, anytime you were on the mound and you didn't play very well, you'd always tell your coach or your dad that my shoulder hurt, my arm was sore today. It was never the fact that you just didn't pitch well. So I think this is definitely just an opportunity for the Reds to obviously hang on to him on the roster. Maybe get him some work with the pitching coaches in the organization. See if they can fix stuff, because I mean, Connor Overton showed that he can be a capable major league starter last year, and I think the Reds are going to do everything they can over the next couple weeks to try and find that Connor Overton again.
Yeah, I mean, Connor Overton has been really bad this year, but what I will say about him, he had some success last year. He's had some success at several different levels in very, very small samples over the last couple of years. Connor Overton is better than some guys that we've seen the Reds just call up for like a spot start that have just absolutely no business. I never felt like Connor Overton. This is such a sad way of saying it. And I'm sorry, Connor, but I never felt like Connor felt like he was completely not supposed to be here at any point. Even when he got shelled, like it was like, he's at least close to a fringe major league pitcher.
And I think a lot of it, honestly, is he's got at best league average stuff, and league average stuff can't go out there against the Atlanta Braves and the Philadelphia Phillies and constantly be in 2-0 counts, 3-1 counts against guys like Kyle Schwarber and Trey Turner and Nick Castellanos and guys like that. I think that's step number one, is find a way to get ahead in the count, because right now you don't have Hunter Green's 101 mile an hour fastball. You don't have Graham Ashcraft's 99 mile an hour cutter. With your 91, 92, I mean, you got to be able to get ahead of hitters, because that's really the only shot you have.
Yeah. Brian asked the question, how close does MLB monitor phantom IL moves? I doubt they really care. Connor Overton's not going to complain because he's getting paid major league salary while he's on the IL. So I just, and there's I don't know how you'd prove anything like that. Everyone's shoulder hurts. Like if it's right, you could put a guy on an IL for shoulder fatigue, so
isn't that the go-to phantom injury is dead arm and shoulder fatigue?
Yeah. All right, and then the last part of this, Luke Weaver expected to start Wednesday against Tampa Bay. We talked at length about this on last night's show and on Saturday morning's podcast, if you listen to that. Look, I don't know if Luke Weaver is the answer, but I am excited to see. I think he's a guy that's got some potential. He's got some upside. He definitely has more upside than Connor Overton had at this moment, in this present time. I'm excited to see this guy get a chance. He's a guy that's had some success. Some of his underlying numbers over the last couple of years gave you some serious reason for optimism with him. And he's a guy that I want to see Derek Johnson get a chance to work with and see if the Reds can, maybe have a diamond in the rough with him.
Yeah, and like you said, Nick, I mean, Luke Weaver was a former top prospect in St. Louis for a reason. I mean, this guy has the stuff that multiple major league executives feel is good enough to be at least a middle of the rotation arm in big league baseball. Now he's had some down years, he's had some inconsistencies, but the talent's there and the stuff is there. And working, I think we saw flashes of it in spring training. I think he looked really, really good at times. And like you said, at the end of the day, I think Luke Weaver's a drastic step up from, what they're throwing out there right now at the back of the rotation. And I think with a guy like Luke Weaver, even if, you win half of his starts, if your number 4 starter ends up with a 500 record, that's not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, I got a comment here from our guy OJ 94 Bronco, who's in here every single night. We haven't had a 0 yet this year. We had a lot of zeros last year. And looking back through some of the early season struggles of the Reds last year, which was just as miserable a month as I've ever had being a Reds fan, just to be completely frank and honest. So this is the first, the 2-13 stretch. The Reds had games with 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 0, 2, 0. Those were all games that fell in that stretch. And then so far this year, the Reds have only had 2 games where they scored 2 runs. They've had 0 games where they only scored 1 run, and they haven't got shut out all year. So that's a good point from OJ. Man, this has been a much more pleasant team to watch. Yes, they're 6-8 right now. Not lighting the world on fire by any means, but it's been I think a much needed just breath of fresh air, kind of watching this team night in, night out compete every single night. It doesn't feel like I turn on the TV and I'm like, Reds are probably going to get smoked tonight. No, it feels like they're probably going to be in it till the end. And they have really every single game except for yesterday. What's your thoughts on kind of how much more competitive? And the Reds have a positive run differential right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the 1-run games that are killing them. But I think you're absolutely right. They just look like such a more competitive team night after night. Last year's team, I know we've had multiple guys say that last year's team didn't have a great clubhouse. They didn't have great energy all year. I, of course, wasn't around the locker room. I can't tell you if that's true or not. But this group seems like they have a lot of fun just playing baseball and competing. And something, that I've already noticed, Nick, is they have guys that, just work good at bats and put the ball in play. They have guys like Spencer Steer, Jonathan India, TJ Friedel, just guys that find ways to grind out at bats. I don't feel like they had that last year as much as they have that this year. It felt like last year they got into a lot of multi-inning ruts where they just swing and miss at everything. They chase everything. This year, this Reds team, much more disciplined at the plate, much more, gritty in the batter's box. And I think that's why they're scoring runs. And really, I think it's going to be tough to shut out this Reds team this year.
Yeah, another good comment here from Brian. Let's hope Weaver is better than Mike Minor's innings eater. The biggest point on Weaver is just Weaver's only 28 years old. Mike Minor was 34. Mike Minor was on his literal last leg of his baseball career. Luke Weaver's still a guy fighting for his big league life. Yeah. Mike Minor signed some contracts, made some money. Luke Weaver, I don't think has made a whole lot of money yet in this game. So they're just in a much different spot. I think there's definitely some upside. Is Luke Weaver going to be great this year? I have no idea. But I knew going into last year, Mike Minor's ceiling was probably a league average starter. Luke Weaver's ceiling is higher than that, I'll say.
And I think just kind of building off of what you just said, I think Luke Weaver's stuff on a bad day is probably as good as Mike Minor's stuff last year on a good day.
Yeah. All right, let's get into some Reds MILB talk. As I kind of go through some of there's only 2 scores that have gone final so far. As we kind of go through that, I'll stop and ask Shae about some specific players as we go through some of these teams. If you are watching and you're in the chat, if you have any questions for us, go ahead and fire them up. When we're done with that, the MILB rundown, we'll get to any more questions, and then we'll wrap the show up. Thanks to everyone for joining us today for the Reds 13-0 win post-game celebration here on Chatterbox Reds. All right, so let's start off Louisville. They ended their 8-game losing streak with a 7-3 win. Right off the bat in this one, Matt McLain in the second inning hit a leadoff absolute bomb. It was off the scoreboard in Toledo. Matt McLain's already his 4th home run of the year. I'm going to stop right here. What's your thoughts on Matt McLain, Shae?
He's got so much more power than I thought he'd ever have when we took him out of UCLA. I really thought he was, I thought he was fundamentally a sound hitter. I know that's why they took him out of UCLA. Just a guy that really felt like a mature, really talented player that was going to fast track through the minors, and he has. But he's got more pop than I ever thought he would, and he's got the contact and plate discipline that I thought he would. So He's a really exciting player. And in all the talk about Ellie De La Cruz and Noelvi Marte and Edwin Arroyo and all these big name guys, a guy like Matt McLain, who currently sits as the number 5 prospect in the organization, he might end up being the most valuable out of all these guys because he can play all over the diamond, and he's really, really consistent at hitting the ball hard.
Yeah, if Matt McLain's your number 5 prospect, you're doing something right in terms of at least acquiring prospects. On an unfortunate note, our guy Will Benson 0 for 5, 4 strikeouts today. So hopefully just a rough day for Will, a guy that I still have high hope on. I'm hoping he can figure it out. Run through some of the pitching today for Louisville because there's a lot of notable pitchers that pitched today. Chase Anderson, another one of these dudes that's kind of a guy that's sitting there in the waiting to be a fill-in starter, and I think would do an adequate job, or at least mediocre jobs, maybe the better way of saying it. He pitched pretty well today. 5 innings, 4 hits, 1 run, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. Didn't get any home runs. A lot of other pitchers that we have some interest in. Joel Kuhnel had a nice bounce back outing, pitched a scoreless inning with a strikeout. He got hit really hard the other night. And then a guy that could actually save the Reds bullpen a little bit, Lucas Sims, perfect inning, not a perfect inning, scoreless inning today, 1 walk. Lucas Sims has not allowed an earned run so far in AAA. Shae, what do you think about Lucas Sims and how big he could be for this bullpen?
I think he could be very big for this bullpen because I think, Nick, the number one problem right now the Reds have, they have starters, especially Lodolo and Ashcraft, that are getting them to the 6th, 7th innings of games. And we know that Alexis Diaz, is going to be absolutely locked down in the 9th. We need to find guys that can get through that 7th and 8th. And before Alexis Diaz was even a Cincinnati Red, who was the guy that was pitching the 7th and 8th to set up Raisel Iglesias and to set up, TJ Antone for a stretch of time? Lucas Sims. He's been doing this his whole career. And if he's healthy, the stuff plays with that curveball. That fastball comes in about 94, but it looks like it comes in about 99 because of how hard he throws that, or because of how much that curveball breaks. I think Lucas Sims could be the 7th, 8th inning reliever that the Reds really need. And he's a former starter. So I think he'd be much more likely to go multiple innings than a guy like Alexis Diaz.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to High A Dayton. They won today. Good day so far for the Reds minor league system. They beat Great Lakes 6-4. Some of the notables in this one: Austin Hendricks was 0 for 3 with a walk. Tyler Callahan was 1 for 3 with 2 walks. We actually got on base 3 times. Matt Nelson, the catcher, was in the Reds' top prospect, actually fallen just because of how good the Red system is. He was a higher draft pick. I think he might have been a 2nd-round pick. I can't remember, but he's a catcher. He had a home run today. He's off to a really great start for Dayton. 978 OPS right now. He is a guy that I'm watching. And then Julian Aguiar, a guy that I saw last week and I was really impressed with. He pitched today. Little bit shakier of an outing. 4.1 innings, 5 hits, 3 earned runs, but he didn't walk anyone, and he did strike out 4. So I think he's another guy to watch for Dayton. Shae, anyone else with Dayton that you're watching right now? You don't have to say anyone, but is there anyone you're interested in there?
I mean, it's a lot of guys really at that level that there's just going to be so much more, multiple seasons of development still left in their path to the bigs. So what I really look for is got tools that aren't really, I guess, normal at that level in players like Justice Thompson. He was with the Dragons last year. He's with them again today. This year, 3 hits and a walk. Got on base 4 times. There's not a lot of guys in high A that get on base 4 times in a game. I like seeing guys that, have plate discipline that really plays up to the high A level. I like seeing, of course, a lot of the top prospects are going to hit the ball hard, but I like seeing guys that have that advanced plate discipline, that advanced approach at the plate, and guys that can really play all over the diamond. I know they had a guy a couple of years ago, or maybe it was last year, but they had Nick Quintana, one of the guys they got in the trade with the Tigers. And then they had, I believe, is it Jose Torres? I think it is.
Yeah, he's up with Chattanooga now.
Yeah, but he's a guy that can play second, short, third, left field, right field. That, I think, is your best chance of standing out at the Dayton level, is getting on base, showing that you have some plate discipline, and playing all over the diamond. Because if you play all over the diamond, you're going to get your name called earlier than a lot of other guys.
Yeah, a lot of other talent on the IL right now for Dayton, too. Edwin Arroyo, Jay Allen, and Chase Petty are all on the IL. So there are some talent that will be hopefully returning soon. Although Jay Allen, I think, is going to miss quite a bit of time with, I think he had a a tear in his thumb.
Mm-hmm.
Other games just getting underway. Double A Chattanooga's down 2-0, and Daytona is also down 2-0. It happens to be. Before we move on and look at any other questions, any other minor leaguers that you just wanted to say something about, Shae, before we move on?
Well, I mean, I think that, it's a really good opportunity because you said there's so many injuries right now with especially a lot of the Reds' top guys, Jay Allen, Christian Encarnacion Strand, Ellie De La Cruz still not playing yet. You also have Edwin Arroyo out with injuries right now. It's a great opportunity. Of course, you still have guys like Noel V. Marte and some of those guys that are still top prospects. But I think this is a good chance to really see the organizational depth where when you have top 5, 6, 8 prospects out with injuries, now all of a sudden you're looking at guys that maybe you haven't heard of in the top 30, or maybe guys that are more like the 25th best prospect in the organization. And if you can see these guys play good baseball, I mean, like you said, sometimes it's the guys that come out of nowhere that really make the big impact. So although I think the guys in the top 5 are going to be really, really good players, it's always exciting to see the guys that, maybe you haven't really thought about as much with some of these big guys out.
All right, well, let's look ahead to tomorrow's game. Luis Cessa on the mound, trying to bounce back from a tough start in his last time out, going up against a really good pitcher in Aaron Nola, who was off to a really slow start this year. So maybe I know I'm probably being a little overly optimistic here, but hopefully maybe you're getting Aaron Nola at the right time. The Reds, they will go for a series win. A season series win against the Phillies. Reds were 1-6 against the Phillies last year. So that in itself would really just be a great way, I think, to kind of get this year off and started. So Luis Cessa, Aaron Nola, 140. That's the new weird Sunday time as the Reds have kind of shaked up some of their start times. Shae, any final thoughts before we wrap this one up?
Yeah, and I appreciate you having me again. This has been a blast. But going into that matchup tomorrow, like you said, Aaron Nola, heck of a pitcher, great curveball, former first-round pick. But looking at, how some of these Reds have done against Aaron Nola, the results are actually pretty good for the Reds against Nola. You have Jonathan India hitting 800, 5 at-bats, but 4 hits, home run. Will Myers hitting 273 with a home run and 11 ABs. Kevin Newman's 4 for 7 against Aaron Nola. Nick Senzel has a hit. You have TJ Friedel who has a hit. So there's guys in this lineup that have seen Aaron Nola pretty well. And that could, with the way the Reds are going right now, and you never really know, but one or two of those guys run into one, and all of a sudden you have a 4 or 5 run lead like you did today, and things start to go pretty well when you're playing in front of your home fans.
Yeah, very good. Well, Shae, I can't thank you enough for coming on last minute, jumping on, helping us out today with the post-game show. If you're still watching and you haven't hit that like button on YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube, please hit that. That kind of stuff really helps it. Make sure you subscribe to Chatterbox Sports on YouTube as well. And then, of course, this is always up every single morning. Unless you start your day at like 3 a.m., it'll be up every single morning by the time you get in your car for your morning commute. So hopefully keep you up to date on all things Reds with hopefully a little fun, interesting conversation every night. So leave us a review, 5 stars on your favorite podcast platform, all that kind of fun stuff really helps us out, and we greatly appreciate it. All right, well, for Shae, I am Nick. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you tomorrow post-game. Reds at 140, like we said, so probably I don't know, with the pitch clock, it's hard to figure out when these games are going to end, but probably around 4:30 or so. And I'm going to have Bryce Spalding joining me tomorrow. So have a great rest of your Saturday, or if you're listening to the podcast version, a great Sunday. Go Reds.